I didn't say a word when they handed me that eviction notice. I just slid the 1923 water rights deed across the table and watched 35 mega-coulombs mansions about to become lakefront property. The Willowbrook Estates, HOA, thought they could steal my grandfather's farm while I was deployed in Afghanistan. What they didn't know, I'm an Army Corps engineer, and that earth dam on my property had been waiting 45 years for someone stupid enough to build downstream. I'm Jake Morrison, 34, third-generation owner of 47 acres outside Austin. My grandfather, Pops, built a small earth dam in 1978 with Army Corps help for rainwater collection and community water management. While I was on my second Afghanistan deployment specializing in water infrastructure, Pops died. My sister Sarah in California hired a property management company but never checked the tax assessments. NTR Margaret Maggie Thornwell, 52, Willowbrook Estates HOA president, married to city councilman Rick Thornwell. She's got that passive-aggressive Southern sweetness that masks pure entitlement. When I returned in August 2023, I found construction crews and survey stakes across my back 40. The HOA had filed adverse possession while I was overseas. Brr. Aggie appeared in her golf cart like a suburban warlord. "Your family abandoned this land, honey," she said. "We're just putting it to good use." Worse, her crews had diverted Willow Creek feeding Pops's dam. Water levels dropped daily, destroying 45 years of watershed management. "You should have stayed closer to home, soldier boy," she sneered. That's when I knew this was war. Hired an attorney who quoted $85,000 to challenge the zoning change Rick had pushed through. But my Army Corps training kicked in. Digging through county records, I found Pops's 1978 dam construction permits, built with federal guidance, meaning federal jurisdiction that HOAs can't override. Then I discovered a 1923 water rights deed. My great-grandfather had purchased senior water rights to the entire Willow Creek watershed, older than the city itself. Maggie organized an emergency HOA meeting about the dangerous dam structure, tipping off local news. She posted on Nextdoor warning about unstable individuals, and hired private security to photograph my visitors. Rick ordered wellness checks through veteran services. Building inspectors, fire marshals, and health departments descended simultaneously, each finding expensive violations. My EPA buddy Tony Riggs revealed that diverting natural waterways without federal permits violates the Clean Water Act. I documented everything with trail cameras, time-stamped photos, and flow measurements. I discovered their development was built in a 100-year floodplain. Insurance companies initially refused coverage until the HOA provided a flood mitigation plan, permanently divert Willow Creek away from new homes and flood my property instead. Insurance fraud carries criminal penalties. Research revealed Maggie's previous Houston HOA paid $2.3 million in EPA fines for an identical creek diversion scheme. She'd fled federal prosecutors and set up shop in Austin. I connected with other victims. Her HOA had absorbed 6 properties through similar tactics over 3 years. I partnered with elderly neighbor Mrs. Chen, whose garden withered since the diversion, and Miguel Santos, whose family farm was rezoned out of existence by Rick 2 years earlier. The city planned to seize my property through eminent domain. Rick fast-tracked the hearing for 2 weeks out, offering $180,000 for property worth $890,000. The newspaper ran a hit piece. Troubled veteran blocks community progress. Maggie staged a photo op with 20 mothers holding children near my property. #ProtectOurKids. Tony called with crucial information. The EPA had opened a federal investigation into Willow Creek diversions. Maggie's environmental crimes followed her from Houston. The HOA's construction loans were tied to inflated property values, requiring guaranteed water access. If water rights reverted to me, the entire development would become financially underwater. Maggie panicked, offering $400,000 cash with a 48-hour deadline. When I refused, she flew to California to approach Sarah with stories about my mental health. Sarah shut her down and threatened FBI involvement. I partnered with environmental lawyer Amanda Cross, forming a coalition with downstream farmers. Miguel brought documentation showing his family used creek water since 1887. Mrs. Chen provided 1940s photographs of her grandfather's garden. The Audubon Society documented destroyed nesting habitat for protected bird species. During nighttime reconnaissance, I discovered Pops's dam included an emergency spillway system with hydraulic gates unused since 1982. The mechanism was functional and designed for controlled flooding to restore natural water flow. I calculated the water volume needed, 2.8 million gallons. The dam held 3.1 million gallons from recent rainfall. Using drone reconnaissance, I mapped new home foundations relative to the original creek bed. 5 houses were built directly in the historical flood channel. Maggie's crew began installing permanent concrete barriers to completely block the original creek bed. This gave me perfect justification. Weather predicted heavy September rains, perfect cover for emergency dam maintenance. Digging through courthouse records, I found the original agricultural flood management covenant from Pops's dam construction. Dam operators shall maintain natural seasonal flow patterns to preserve downstream agricultural water rights in perpetuity. Legal obligations superseding any HOA agreements. Amanda's eye. Investigation uncovered that the HOA's insurance applications contained lies, claiming no flooding risk and approved creek diversion to secure $47 million coverage. Insurance fraud in development projects carries mandatory prison time. Rick's construction company wasn't just the contractor, he was the primary investor. Every house built put money directly in his pocket. He'd never recused himself from any city council vote benefiting his project. Tony shared EPA findings that the creek diversion killed the entire population of Guadalupe bass, a protected species. Texas Parks and Wildlife documented the fish kill, but the report got lost in Rick's office. Amanda's banking contacts revealed construction loans were secured by fraudulent environmental assessments, claiming temporary creek diversion. If water rights reverted to me, banks could demand immediate full repayment of $12 million. I found Pops's handwritten journals. His 1980 entry, "Open Spillway Today," helped Santos Farm and 3 others get through dry spell. That's what neighbors do. The dam was never about profit. It was about community service. My engineering analysis confirmed Maggie's diversion created upstream flooding hazards. September rains were predicted to be the heaviest in 7 years. If I acted now, I could control timing and intensity. A controlled spillway release would demonstrate natural flood patterns while proving the HOA violated federal environmental law. I assembled my team. Amanda coordinated legal strategy, filing federal complaints for maximum media attention. Tony provided federal cover, guaranteeing EPA investigators would witness the demonstration. Miguel documented 40 years of downstream agricultural damage. Amanda filed an emergency agricultural water rights restoration motion. We weren't breaking the law, we were following it. My technical preparation was pure Army Corps engineering. NG. Controlled release starting 6 a.m., gradual increase over 4 hours, peak flow 10 a.m., water volume calculated to demonstrate natural flooding without structural damage, except Maggie's illegal barriers. I posted warning signs 24 hours in advance and notified the volunteer fire department. Amanda contacted environmental reporters. Miguel arranged community witnesses. Maggie hired private security who attempted sabotaging the spillway at 2 a.m., jamming concrete mix into hydraulic lines. Trail cameras caught them red-handed. Tony had tipped off the sheriff's department. Deputy Rodriguez was waiting. The arrests were beautiful. Maggie appeared on Austin Morning Show in her Sunday best, trembling voice perfected. Veterans need mental health support, not weapons. This man learned to use water as a weapon in Afghanistan. Rick provided expert testimony about catastrophic dam failure risks, forgetting my dam passed every safety inspection for 45 years. Rick fast-tracked an emergency restraining order hearing for 6 a.m. with Judge Henry Walsh, Rick's golf buddy who'd received $15,000 in campaign contributions. Amanda filed for Walsh's recusal, but we knew the fix was in. Maggie organized neighborhood safety patrol, 20 HOA residents with folding chairs, coolers, and signs, live streaming the spillway opening as environmental terrorism. Miguel brought 30 farmers and families supporting agricultural water restoration. Mrs. Chen organized a counter-demonstration with historical photos. Amanda arranged Audubon Society and Sierra Club representatives. Security footage revealed someone poured concrete mix into the spillway channel overnight, creating blockage designed to cause actual flooding danger. Attempted murder disguised as vandalism. I worked through the night with a jackhammer, clearing sabotage while documenting evidence. Rick used emergency powers declaring my property an imminent public hazard. Fire Chief Martinez privately warned me, "Jake, you've got maybe 6 hours before they force me to intervene. Make it count." Amanda's fraud reports triggered state investigation. Texas Insurance Commission froze all HOA development insurance policies. Without valid insurance, construction faced immediate work stoppage. Tony moved EPA inspection up 24 hours. Federal agents arriving 8 a.m. If spillway opened during their inspection, it would become federal evidence of proper water management. Maggie contacted Veterans Mental Health Services, claiming I'd made suicide threats needing involuntary psychiatric hold. VA social worker arrived 5:30 a.m. as I prepared for spillway operation. At 7:02 a.m., with federal agents watching, I opened spillway gates to 25% capacity. The sound was magnificent. Gentle whisper of water returning home. For the first time in 18 months, Willow Creek flowed in its original bed, exactly where nature intended. Miguel knelt beside the restored creek, cupping clear water in weathered hands, tears streaming. "This is the water that fed my grandfather's farm for 60 years. Maggie screamed at federal agents to arrest the terrorist. EPA agent Sarah Kim calmly explained, "Ma'am, this gentleman has legal right to operate his agricultural flood control system." But Maggie was live streaming on Facebook, voice rising to hysteria. "He's flooding our children's homes." Except water wasn't flooding anything, flowing exactly where it belonged in the original creek bed her development had illegally blocked. Local news helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting live. Austin American-Statesman reporter interviewed downstream farmers about restored water access when Maggie tried hijacking the interview, shrieking about military training attacking civilians. The confused reporter asked, "Ma'am, the water is flowing in the original Creek B. How exactly is this an attack?" You could hear Maggie's narrative collapsing in real time. Rick frantically called Judge Walsh, screaming about property values and campaign contributions. EPA agent Kim measured water flow, confirming it matched historical seasonal patterns exactly. Mrs. Chen's garden irrigation filled for the first time in 18 months. 3 downstream farms reported restored water access. Even some of Maggie's supporters quietly left as they realized no homes were actually flooded. Insurance collapse accelerated when construction company received cease and desist from state investigators. All work stopped pending fraud investigation. Maggie discovered her own homeowner's insurance might be voided due to fraudulent water access claims. She called Rick in panic to block the spillway. Rick sent 3 concrete trucks to accidentally spill loads across creek bed. Federal agents immediately arrested truck drivers for interfering with federal environmental investigation, a felony, not civil matter. City Councilman Martinez arrived, publicly demanding Rick's immediate resignation. "This corruption has made our city a laughingstock." "You're done." Federal investigators expanded probe to include RICO charges for systematic land fraud. Maggie realized her $2.3 million investment was now worthless without fraudulent water access. She screamed at me across the creek, "You've destroyed everything, 35 families." My response was calm, measured, loud enough for every camera. "No, ma'am. I restored everything. Your families can buy water rights legally, just like everyone else has to." Judge Walsh's courtroom at 2 p.m. was packed. Maggie arrived with Houston attorneys, expert witnesses, and legal firepower. She traded tennis outfit for conservative black dress and pearls. I showed up with Amanda wearing simple button-down and Pops' old cowboy hat, Maggie's. Attorney presented photos of muddy sites, claiming $2.7 million flood damage. They wheeled in a psychiatrist who'd never met me, diagnosing combat revenge fantasies from newspaper clippings. Amanda presented the 1978 Agricultural Flood Management Covenant, legally requiring seasonal flooding. EPA agent Kim testified my spillway restored natural water flow without causing actual property damage. Historical photographs proved current water levels matched 60 years of natural seasonal patterns. Tony Riggs took the stand as EPA enforcement officer. His testimony was devastating. HOA violated 3 federal environmental laws, committed systematic insurance fraud, destroyed protected wildlife habitat. Judge Walsh squirmed as federal crimes were detailed in his courtroom. Breaking point came when Amanda called Rick as witness. Under oath, he admitted fast-tracking zoning changes while I was deployed, revealed his financial stake in construction company. When Amanda played recorded phone conversation about destroying property values, Rick exploded. "This is a federal setup. We did nothing wrong." He stormed toward the exit. His own words proved conspiracy. Miguel Santos described 3 generations of farming destroyed by creek diversion, voice breaking about his grandfather's dreams dying with stolen water. Mrs. Chen showed photographs of her family garden, lush before diversion, withered after. Fire Chief Martinez testified spillway operation was professionally executed with 0 safety violations. Maggie took the stand for her final performance. "He came back from war damaged, Your Honor. He's taking revenge on innocent families using psychological warfare against children." When I testified, the courtroom went silent. I presented Pops's journals documenting 40 years of community water sharing, explained Army Corps engineering calculations, spoke directly to Judge Walsh. "Your Honor, I didn't flood anybody. I restored a creek that was stolen from my family and this community for 45 years. Amanda presented final evidence, documentation of Maggie's Houston HOA paying $2.3 million in EPA fines for identical creek diversion scheme. Federal prosecutor announced criminal investigation into interstate water fraud conspiracy. The courtroom erupted. Judge Walsh denied all restraining order requests, ruled my spillway operation legal and beneficial, ordered HOA to cease all interference with federal environmental investigations. Federal agents escorted Rick from courthouse, while banking investigators served additional warrants. Maggie found herself surrounded by reporters, refused all comment, sped away in her BMW. 6 months later, Rick pleaded guilty to federal conspiracy charges, got 3 years federal prison. Maggie faced $8.7 million civil penalties, filed bankruptcy. Construction company paid $12 million EPA fines, banned from federal contract work. HOA dissolved completely. My property value restored to $1.2 million after federal environmental designation. The $340,000 settlement from insurance fraud investigation bought Miguel's family farm at tax auction. I returned it to him debt-free. The restored creek now attracts ecotourism, kayaking, birdwatching, fishing where McMansions were supposed to stand. Mrs. Chen's garden became demonstration site for sustainable agriculture. 3 downstream farms reported best crop yields in a decade. Protected Guadalupe bass populations recovered to pre-diversion levels within 4 months. Audubon Society documented 12 bird species returning to restored wetland habitat. Renovated Pops's farmhouse using sustainable construction techniques. Sarah moved back from California to help manage our growing agritourism business. Amanda and I, fighting environmental crime together creates a pretty strong bond. Environmental groups use Willow Creek model to challenge illegal diversions statewide. Federal agencies cite our case in new water rights enforcement guidelines. We established the Pops Morrison Environmental Scholarship for rural students studying water management. Miguel's daughter Maria was first recipient, now studying environmental engineering at UT Austin. The annual Creek Days Festival celebrates restoration and community resilience. We raised money for a water rights legal defense fund that's already helped 6 other communities. Maggie's Houston HOA faced federal RICO prosecution based on our case. 147 families across 3 states filed similar water rights restoration lawsuits. What started as one veteran's fight became a movement for environmental justice nationwide. From my porch each evening, watching that creek flow exactly where it belongs, I'm reminded that some fights are worth everything you've got. Sometimes you have to flood the valley to save the creek, but you don't do it alone. You do it with your community, your neighbors, and people who believe clean water belongs to everyone. Water finds a way, justice finds a way, and communities that fight together win together. Willow Creek flows free, y'all, and it always will.